So it's a travesty to give a child that young any drug when developmentally they may mature out of the problem anyway with proper guidance and support.
One of the biggest thing I noticed about him was they all knew they had attention deficit disorder, and they all were on some form of medication for it. And they were able to say to me, oh, I'm on medication and I have attention deficit disorder. And the interesting thing was they also were able to say to me, and you can't do anything to me if I don't do my work.
That child will get a diagnostic label, most likely, even at such a young age, terrible 2 or 3, might get the label of ADHD.
Years ago, the terrible twos were a normal, expected part of development, and now it may be the beginning signs of oppositional disorder or ADHD or bipolar disorder or you name it.
The experts who've diagnosed that child think that, well, if that child has this diagnosis, then the child has a disease, has a disorder in their physical body, in their brain, and we need to intervene on that disorder within that child. We don't have to really understand why that child is that way. We're given the explanation as soon as we give the label.
They know there's no consequences for their actions because they're protected under that labeling. And that, to me, is the biggest disservice they've ever done to these kids.
It was like catch-22. I was just like stuck in this like vicious cycle, and it wasn't working.
Don't drink and drive, but okay, take drugs and drive. That's okay. It doesn't impair your ability to drive. Of course it does.
I was taking it, and I was just feeling like horrible. I felt like a walking zombie.
Maybe we should get some answers. You know, don't count on anybody else giving the answers for you, and don't count on anybody else to do something about it. Precisely the reason that Nick is doing it, that I'm here, is because we just expect everybody else to do something about it, and we just sit and wait for everybody else to do it for us.
And like if this helps like one person, then, you know, I've accomplished my goal, and, you know, I've done what I wanted to do.
Not afraid of anything in this world, but you are such a fool. Your screams, it won't be heard.
You know, marketing rules. Good marketing can overcome bad data any day of the week. Because when you have unlimited resources, you can market any idea. I mean, the public has been convinced that every single problem in living or challenge in life is a disease, a disorder, or a deficit of some kind. And parents have really bought into this.
We felt like we let her down, you know, because she came to us for help. And instead, we almost cost her life.
Nothing gets taken away by a drug. A drug only adds a layer. The original stuff is always there, doing its thing, festering in some way.
It's madness. Who's the mad one here? You know, I mean, are we changing so much, or is our kids really needing all these drugs? We know that the answer is no. We know that the answer is no.
We need to look at the process through which drugs become available to the market, especially for children. The research now just plain is not stringent enough.
Why are we still, you know, drugging our kids? You know, and we talk about millions of kids in our country doing that.
We use more highly technological drugs, which have essentially the same effects, but they're more expensive, and they're more marketed, and they are more allied with the medical profession.
Not to just believe that what the doctor is telling you, what the manufacturer is telling you, we have to. And the FDA, I mean, the FDA is, I feel like, I know how big of a business the pharmaceuticals are, having their lawmakers and stuff like that. But when you're talking about millions of kids literally. Not only teenagers, kids, 5 years, 4 years, being prescribed this. How are we affecting these kids? How are we changing their lives? What's going to happen 15, 20 years from now when all those millions of kids, and how long are we going to keep them these drugs?
Take 2 amphetamine, put them